You've read the books, you've taken the notes, you've made the decision, but now you're a little stuck. You've started multiple plans just this year and finished none of them. And somewhere along the way, you decided the problem was likely you, that you're not disciplined enough, not consistent enough, not the kind of woman who follows through. If you are like a lot of women, your failure to achieve the results you want is probably starting to grate on your confidence and self-esteem. But I'm here to tell you that there's relief. If you've been putting real effort into making a change or reinventing your career, this episode's for you. You may believe that if you just try harder, you'd be further along. But if you're here, I don't believe you have an effort problem. You're likely just experiencing an architecture problem. You don't have the right strategy to produce your desired results. Today, we're going to fix that. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Bold Life School, the show that empowers you to elevate your life and to step into your full potential. I'm your host, Jamesyn, and this is where ambition meets authenticity, where you'll find the tools and inspiration to grow, evolve, and thrive. Each week, we dive into powerful topics that challenge the status quo, whether it's to break through limiting beliefs, navigate life's transitions, or embrace the bold moves that push you beyond your comfort zone. Now let's get into today's episode. Here's the thing about high-achieving women. You're not short on effort. You never have been. In fact, that's how you got here. You've worked hard through job changes, pivots, promotions, and more late-night research spirals than you'd probably want to admit out loud. You've made all of the lists and taken courses and had the conversations, and still something isn't moving. That's not a discipline problem. What's missing isn't more trying, though. What's missing is the structure that turns all that effort into a result, a clear destination, an accurate diagnosis of the gap between where you are now and who you want to become, a sequenced plan, a decision about where your time and energy actually should be going, and finally, identity alignment, becoming the woman who operates differently, not just the woman who tries harder, in the same direction and from the same perspective. When any of those is absent, your effort remains scattered. You stay busy, sure, but you also stay stuck. This hits high performers hardest because your work ethic is probably one of your best traits. So when reinvention stalls, you reach for the only tool that's always worked: more effort. But effort without architecture doesn't create reinvention. It creates exhaustion. You're busier, but not closer. The Bold Life Career Reinvention Framework is centered around 5 critical stages of the change process. To learn more about all of the stages, check out episode 51. But today we're talking about getting stuck at stage 3, building the strategy. This is the part that's always unclear. Nobody really teaches it or gets into the details. The internet's full of content telling you to notice that you're unhappy and full of content telling you to be brave and take a leap. But what about how to actually architect the change that needs to occur? This is the part where you connect the decision to the result. That gap is where smart women lose time, momentum, motivation, confidence. So let's build the bridge. Before we get into the specific questions a strategy has to answer, let's be clear about what a strategy actually is, because most women are working without one and don't even realize it. It's not just having a vision board or a 5-year plan sitting in a Google Doc that you'll never open again. But those are a good start, at least. It's not just a list of goals. A strategy is a structure, and that structure has 5 parts to it. Now, You can define strategy in many different ways, but for today, we're sticking with this pretty simple definition, right? It's got to have one, a specific destination. It's not a feeling that you're chasing. It has to be a concrete role, identity, or way of operating that you can actually name and measure. Two, it contains an accurate gap diagnosis. Not the gap that you assumed you had, it's the gap that actually is there. And most women are solving for the wrong problems. Three, you got to have a sequenced plan, not just a to-do list. This is an order of operations where the right move comes first because of what it unlocks next. Four, a strategy must contain a resource allocation decision. Like, where is your time, energy, attention, and money going to come into play? These resources aren't finite. So a strategy helps you decide where to put your energy and where not to put your energy, more importantly. And five, a strategy also needs to contain identity alignment. This has to be built from the perspective of the woman you're becoming, not the woman you've been. So if the plan doesn't include becoming someone who operates differently, it's going to collapse under the weight of old habits and old self-concept. Remove any one of these elements and the whole structure weakens or collapses, which is why effort, even significant effort, can't compensate for missing components of a good strategy. If you're building without a foundation, it doesn't work. In order to make sure your strategy for change has these 5 elements, start by answering 4 specific questions. So question 1 is about the destination. Who do you want to become? Specifically, this is really about defining the end results. And it shouldn't be vague. Not, I want to become happier or less stressed, or I want to find something more meaningful. Those aren't destinations, they're moods. A destination is the role or a way of operating that you can actually name. So when planning a career reinvention, this might be defining your destination as an executive level leader in corporate. Or if you want to build your own consulting business, you could say that you want to replace my corporate income by building my own consultant firm. Vague destinations produce vague efforts. If you can't name where you're going, no amount of trying will get you there because you won't be able to measure whether you're getting closer to your goal or not. The first job of strategy is to make the target specific enough to aim at. You can and likely will tweak it, revise it, or pivot along the way. But having a clear destination, a North Star, in draft form ensures that you stay on track until you intentionally pivot. All right, question 2. This is about closing the distance. What's the actual gap between here and there? Who you are today and who you want to become. There are 5 kinds of gaps to assess and close when planning a career reinvention. Most women miss or misjudge which of these to put their efforts into. These are some of the gaps to take a hard look at. Your capabilities. Where are the gaps between the skills you'd need to become future you and the ones that you have today? Credibility. Where is your credibility level at today? This is the proof that other people can see that you are successful. You've reached your goal. And how can you fill the gap between your credibility today and the credibility that you would need in the future to become future you? The next area is capital. This is about the money or the runway that making such a big move or change would require from you, or time resources to go from where you're at today to where you want to be in the future. Then there are connections. This is about assessing who you have in your network today versus who you need in your network in order to get to that next level. And finally, identity change. Do you have a gap in your belief systems about who you can be? Because if you do, it's going to be really hard for you to transform into that person until you make some transformations internally to believe that you can become future you. Here's what I see constantly. Ambitious women overestimate some gaps and underestimate others. For instance, the capability gap. Some women believe that they need the exact credentials to make a job or career leap. So they go back to school to fix a problem that was never really about having the exact skills. They earn another certificate when they really needed to network effectively, to connect with people, to knock on the right door, open it, and walk through, degree or not. When considering starting a business, many women feel defeated because they overestimate the capital required to get going. It doesn't always take a lot. There are many scrappy ways to get moving. Sometimes all you need is a computer, some software, and a podcast mic. So it's important that you can name the real gaps. It's almost never the one or ones that you've been busy trying to solve for. Question 3. This is about defining the sequence. Prioritization. What's the first move and what does it unlock? Reinvention is not about having one big to-do list. It's about defining the order of operations. The first right move makes the next 3 easier. The wrong first move, usually update the resume or go get another degree, may quietly cost you a year and it changes nothing. So look at each category of gaps before making a decision and running with them. Defining the sequence beats blanket effort every time. A woman with a clear plan in the right order will move faster than a woman with a brilliant plan in the wrong one. Strategy is knowing how to define your priorities and how to go after them, and why. And question 4. This is about evidence. How will you know it's working before you arrive at your end goal? This is where it's important to understand how to measure a reinvention along the way. Because if you don't come up with those milestones related to your small wins, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. And that's why people often quit at this stage. Arriving at a goal, a big, hairy, audacious goal, takes time. So if your only proof of progress is the finished result, you may abandon the whole thing in month 3 when the result isn't there yet. So you measure leading indicators or milestones instead. Are the right conversations starting to happen? How many of them did you have? Are people beginning to see you differently than they did 90 days ago? Have you checked off the boxes, the tasks in your plan at each step of the way? This also allows you to then look back at your plan and say, yes, I've been doing the work. And this is what I most want you to take with you. Movement with a plan creates clarity. You will not think your way to certainty, to clarity, to results from your couch. You build the strategy, then you start making the moves in the right order to make the biggest wins, and you reassess and recalibrate along the way as you unlock more clarity and get closer to your results. So let me make this real. Imagine a woman, 10 years in corporate, learning and development, director level, genuinely good at her job, but she knows she's done. She's not burned out. She's not plateaued, just done. And she knows that because she's been in those other categories before. But now she's made the decision, but she just can't seem to make any progress. She's been working on her LinkedIn profile update for months, but that's not a strategy. That's activity, busy work dressed up as progress. Here's what building the architecture, the strategy actually looks like for her. Destination, so she makes where she's going, what the outcome will be specific. She doesn't just want something more meaningful. When she gets honest, she wants to consult independently. Working with a mid-sized company on leadership development, choosing her clients, and controlling her own calendar. That's a destination. It's concrete, it's measurable. Now there's something specific that she can aim at. Closing the distance. Her instinct is to get certified, add another credential to a resume that's already strong. When she actually starts diagnosing her gaps, capability isn't the problem. She has 15 years of proof. The real gaps are credibility outside her company walls. She needs some, and she needs connections. She doesn't know the decision makers who will hire independent consultants. She needs to expand her network. And her initial idea to get a certification solves neither of those problems. She looks at the sequence so she can set her priorities, her plan of attack deliberately. Her first move isn't making a website. It's not creating an LLC. It's not updating anything. The first move is just having 3 conversations with people who already do what she's moving towards. Those conversations give her market intelligence, introduce her to the next people she needs to know, and begin building the external credibility that makes everything else easier. So here, by looking at those credibility gaps, she can make a better, right first move, chosen because of what it unlocks. Then the evidence, built in from the start. She's not measuring herself against, am I consulting yet? Did I quit my job yet? She's measuring leading indicators. Did I have 3 conversations this month? Am I getting referred to someone new? Progress is visible before she's arrived, which means she doesn't quit in month 3. She can look back and see that she's taken the action. And if she understands that career reinvention may be a bit of a journey, she'll realize that those concrete steps are also small wins. 4 months of LinkedIn research becomes 4 weeks of the right conversations. Not because she pushed harder, but because she stopped building without a clear foundation. And that's what building the architecture does. Now, I want to name why you've avoided building the strategy, because it's not an accident. Architecting a strategy requires commitment. You're basically saying, I'm committed to building out an entire plan, to doing the real work to make sure that I'm on the right path. And commitment is uncomfortable for women who've built their identity around staying ready or staying comfortable instead of getting going. See if you recognize any of these characters. You've got the perpetual researcher. It's the one who's read everything, but not really made any movement. You've got the someday planner, always preparing, never executing, certain that they will make the change somewhere out into the ambiguous future when the perfect conditions are present. You've got the motivated quitter who starts with fire and stops the moment it requires actual structure instead of feeling passionate and angry about the current situation. And then you've got the woman with 12 tabs open, lots of ideas, but no real decisions. None of these women are lazy. In fact, making a career change often requires a period of confusion. Every one of them is staying busy, and that's the cruelty of it. The activity feels like progress. So the reality of being stuck actually stays invisible to the person, sometimes for years. Architecting a strategy forces the question you've been managing your way around. Not, am I trying hard enough, but am I willing to commit to a new direction and build a foundation around it? Here's what's on the other side of this. You stop rehashing the same decision every Sunday night. You stop measuring yourself against a finish line that you can't see yet. You stop confusing effort with movement. You start making intentional moves towards a career that fits the woman you are becoming, not the one you were when you first chose the path you're on. And that's the shift from spinning to moving, from trying hard in any direction, throwing spaghetti at the wall, to building deliberately. You don't need to wait until you feel ready, because readiness is a result of moving. It's not a prerequisite for change. And most of us never feel ready for anything. Because once we get to our destination, we want more. You need a structure, and then you need to take the first move while you still feel that uncertainty. Because that's the only version of this that's ever worked for anyone. Now, about your next move. If you've been sitting in a decision, figuring out how to get to the next level, how to transform your career, knowing you've outgrown where you are, putting in real effort, but not getting any closer, your problem may not have been discipline. It may have been lack of strategy. And if you want to build your strategy for a career transformation, that's exactly what one-on-one career coaching is for. If you want to build yours with me, that's exactly what we do at The Bold Life. We spend 12 weeks together working through the Bold Life Career Reinvention framework, customized to your needs, building a strategy from the ground up that fits your life and your goals. And if you're not yet sure which signal is driving your desire for change, you can find out by starting with the free 2-minute career burnout signals quiz at theboldlife.coach. Link also in the show notes. You can diagnose the problem before you build the plan. Here's the question I'll leave you with. What have you been calling an effort problem or a deficiency in yourself that was actually due to a lack of strategy all along? You've already been working hard. Now build something worth working towards. I'll see you next week. If you enjoyed today's episode, head over to theboldlife.coach for more resources, join our community, and start living your boldest life today.